Hey y'all, it's Ms. Flores. So today we are going to continue practicing multiplying with decimals, doing it with the traditional algorithm, and also answering some questions about how to model them. So we are going to be completing these questions on the Google form that is attached to this assignment today. We're going to go over 5 questions together just as a review over what we've done, the past couple weeks. So let's look at number 2. It says that Darren multiplied 2 numbers. His product contained 2 decimal places. Which pair of numbers could Darren have multiplied? All right, so let's think about when we are multiplying decimal numbers together. So I want to have an answer that contains 2 decimal places. So remember, when we're multiplying, so let's say I have 3 4/10 times 1 5/10. When we were multiplying this, we would multiply like it's 34 times 15, right? And at the very end, we need to look at how many numbers we have to the right of our decimal. So if I've got 4 to the right of my decimal and 5 to the right of my decimal, that's going to give me 2 decimal places. So we need to look at our number pairs and figure out which pairs would have 2 numbers to the right of their decimal in the problem. So let's look at A. A 23 doesn't have a decimal, but it does have 5, right? That's only one decimal number though. So A is not going to work. Well, let's look at B. B has 1 number to the right of the decimal, 3, and then another number to the right of the decimal. That's going to be 2 decimal places, right? The first one only had 1. So that's going to be 2 decimal places. That sounds good, but let's check through the rest of them. C has 2 and 5 to the right of the decimal and 0 and 1 to the right of the decimal. That is 4 numbers to the right of my decimal, so that'd be 4 decimal places. That's not correct. Let's look at D. We've got 1 number to the right of our decimal for 4/10 and 2 numbers to the right of the decimal and 82 hundredths. That's 3 decimal places in my answer, which is not correct. So our answer is going to be B. 6 3/10 times 2 7/10. So we could answer that without even having to do the actual math for every single problem. Let's look at our next problem. All right, so number 3 says, which product is greater than 8 5/10? So this kind of problem, we need to solve all of our problems in order to figure out which one's going to work. So let's start with the first one. We've got 42.0 times 0.2. All right, so we're going to multiply that 2 out first. So it's going to be 2 times 0, 0. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So now, our next number is this 0. That 0 multiplied out is going to just be everything is going to be 0, right? So we don't even have to multiply that out. So our 8, 4, 0 is just the only row we're going to have. All right, but our last step is to make sure that we count our numbers to the right of our decimal to put that into my answer. I've got 1 number, that's 0, 2 numbers, that's 2. So I need to scoot my decimal 2 places over to the right. So scoot over 1, 2, and we end up with 8 40 hundredths. We needed 8 5/10, right? That is not greater, that is smaller, so A is not correct. Let's try B. We've got 2 5/10 times 3 5/10. So let's multiply this 5 out first. So 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. All right, so our top row is done. So now let's move on to our second row to multiply out that 3. Add your placeholder smiley so you don't forget about it. And now we're ready to multiply out our 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And now we just add them all up. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 7 is 8. So I've got all my numbers done, but remember, we have 2 numbers to the right of our decimal. So I just got to scoot it over 2 places. So I've got 1, 2. And my answer would be 8 75 hundredths. Well, is that greater than 8 5/10? Let's compare them. So I've got 8 75/100 and 8 5/10. So we line up our decimals, right? Add our placeholder 0. So now I'm comparing 8 75/100 to 8 50/100. Well, 8 75/100 definitely is greater. So 2 5/10 times 3 5/10 would be greater. Give me an answer greater than 8 5/10. Let's look at our next one. All right. Number 4 says a batter's box on a certain baseball field is 1 8/10 meters by 1 2/10 meters. What is the area in square meters of the batter's box? So our key here is to multiply the dimensions. So when we're finding the area of a box, a square, something like that, our area would equal its length times its width. So in that case, it's going to be 1.8 times 1.2. So let's do that. 1.8 times 1.2. So let's multiply our 2 out first. Well, 2 times 8 is 16. Carry the 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So now we're moving on to our second row to multiply that 1. Add your placeholder smiley, and you're ready to multiply out your 1. Well, 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. Now you add them up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 3 plus 8 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. But then we got to put our decimal back into our answer, right? We have 1, 2 numbers to the right of our decimal, so it scoots over 1, 2. Ended with 2 16/100, which would be D. So D is our final answer. All right, only 2 more that we're going to go over. Let's look at number 7. So number 7 says that Leslie bought enough pizzas to feed the 15 people attending her birthday party. Each pizza serves 3 people. If pizzas cost $8.99 each, how much did Leslie pay for the pizzas? So let's think about it. So if each person is if each pizza serves 3 people, right? So that means 3 people can get 1 pizza, right? But we've got 15 people. So we need to think about how many pizzas we would need for 15 people. So let's take our 15 people and divide it by 3 to get how many pizzas that would be. Well, 15 divided by 3 is 5, right? So we need 5 pizzas. Each pizza costs $8.99. So that means I've got to multiply to figure out my answer. So we're going to do our $8.99 times 5. So this is only 3 by 1, so we only have 1 row for this. 5 times 9 is 45. Carry the 4. 5 times 9 is 45, plus 4 is 49. Carry the 4 again. 5 times 8 is 40, plus 4 is 44. So we're good with our multiplication. Now I just have to add my decimal back in. We've got 1, 2 numbers to the right of our pizza. What am I talking about? Right of our decimal. So we're going to scoot it over 2 places. So we scoot it over 1, 2, and we end up with 44 95/100, which in this case we're dealing with money. So that would be $44.95 on pizzas, which is B. Let's look at our last question. What is the product of the multiplication model shown? So remember, product means answer to a multiplication problem. So this is an area model. So let's figure out how many, what our numbers are being represented up at the top. So right here, and what it's being represented on the side. Let's look at this side. All right, so at the top, remember, I've got 1 whole grid, right? Well, that is 1. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. So that'd be 1 6/10. Then on the other side, we still have 1 whole, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths. So that would be 1 4 tenths. So in order to find our answer, we could just multiply these, or we could count up our area model, right? So in here, in this square, I've got one whole. So I know I've got one whole, which would be 1.0. Then I've got my tenths. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths on this side. So this would be 7, 8, 9, 10 tenths. So 10 tenths is one whole as well, right? So that would also be 1.0. And then our hundredths, little squares, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 hundredths, which would be 0.24. And we can add those up to find our answer. Add our placeholder zeros, and you're ready to go. So 0 plus 0 plus 4 is 4. 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 2. 1 plus 1 plus 0 is 2. And then all of our decimals were in a line right here. So make sure you put your decimal underneath it. And we ended with 2 and 24 hundredths, which is D. All right, y'all. So make sure to finish up the rest of the problems on your own, and we will go over them later. Comment in the assignment if you have any questions, and I will talk to y'all later. Have a great day, guys. Bye.